All right, fire away.
Nick, what's the difference between the lead up and the prep for this game, this playoff game, compared to your playoff debut last year?
Lead up and difference? Nothing. No, you're trying to perfect your process and tweak it, and so there's obviously little different things that you've done that you've added over the year. Like, hey, we'll add this or we take this out. So there's little things like that are changed, but you don't just change. And the same thing. What's the difference between this preparation now today and the one against Detroit? Nothing, right? It doesn't. The moment of the game and who we're playing and where we're playing or what, that doesn't change, right? And that's been our consistent message all year, and what our players know and what our players do is you get ready for each game and you treat each game exactly the same because every game's big in this league.
Nick, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of facing a team you have so much familiarity with?
I guess you would say that they know us well and we know them well. You know the personnel really well. You know the schemes really well. And so there's advantages and disadvantages to both ends of that. And so, again, you go through your process. You have a process for everything. You got a process for a Monday night game. You got a process for a Thursday night game. You have a process for the second or third time that you play a team that you're trying to go through in that matter. But, it's familiarity and that can be both good and bad because it's not like we're just familiar with them. They're familiar with us as well.
What's your feeling for how Jalen is feeling and functioning now relative to the last time he was getting ready for the Giants?
Yeah, same thing. I'm going to tell you, he's better today than he was 2 weeks ago, right? And he's continuing to get better, and he feels good. I'll let him tell you how he feels. But looking forward to seeing him go out there and practice today and go through everything today.
Nick, your philosophy of shorter training camp practices, days off in camp, walk through Wednesdays, all that stuff, getting guys off their feet. What kind of made you believe in that when you first got here, and how much do you think it's paid off this year?
Long season, really long season, and you go and you take things that were good at places you've been in the past, and head coaches did things in the past, and you take things that are bad, and you look at your team, and you want to keep these guys healthy. It's a long season. 17 weeks is long, and then obviously when you're playing in the playoffs, it's even longer in the preseason, and so you're trying to do what you can do to keep them healthy while still making sure they're ready physically, making sure they're ready mentally, all those different things. And so, really do like the way we practiced here. Obviously, it's helped us. Now we've had some dings along the way, just like every team, but we feel like we're pretty healthy going into this playoffs, and and that's a tribute to all the people that work to make sure that the play, gave me the information, and I got to make the decision. That's what I feel is best for the team. But all the people that gave me the information that I needed from our trainers and our training staff and our strength staff and our doctors of what could be best for our guys' health and everything.
What was Sunday like for you? Did you guys watch the games at home? Were you here?
We were here.
And then just like turning the page, watching that game, and onto the
Yeah, we were here. We were preparing. At that point, you have 3 different teams you can get ready for, and we were preparing for the teams, and did a lot of work on the Giants that day. Just so happened to be a lot of work on the Giants that day, and so we guessed right there. Yeah, it's on in the background as you're going. You're more focused on that than you normally would be because you're looking in back and forth, seeing how things played out, so yeah, it was on while we were planning.
What did you accomplish last week, and why the pads on Thursday?
We just wanted to get in pads again to make sure we got some good on good work, some speed work, so we can be physical and also work on some of the run game stuff that you might not get quite as much of when you don't have pads on, because we wanted to work on the fundamentals. So that was the main emphasis, is really working hard on our fundamentals. again, I say this all the time, that this team's going to call a good play, and this team's going to call a good play, and this player's going to be good, and this player's going to be good. What gives, right? And that is going to be fundamental. So we worked on the fundamentals of our plays and fundamentals of the football. That was a big emphasis last week. Situational football was a big emphasis last week, and so those are two big things that we really worked on. And obviously, we did a lot of self scout, just like we did coming off the bye week in the year as well.
What'd you make of the way that Wink called the game against the Vikings versus what he had done previously for most of the season in terms of blitzing, not blitzing, a lot of zone?
Yeah, I mean, he does what he needs to do to win the football game. I know that's their philosophy. It's all of our philosophies. Do what you got to do to win the football game. So obviously, I wasn't in their game plan meetings of saying, hey, this is what the Vikings do on offense, and this is how he needs to call it. We noticed how he called it, and just watched it from there.
When you go back to your first experience in the playoffs, you said the preparation doesn't change, but what did you learn as a head coach and your staff and in that environment for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that was my first environment as a head coach, but it keeps coming back to the same thing. You don't, just because you're in this moment doesn't mean you change anything about how you go about your business, right? You don't put more emphasis on ball security or taking the ball away, because if you do it now, it wasn't important leading up to it. And so really it just keeps coming back to that. We got good experience of being in the playoffs last year. Obviously it didn't end the way we wanted it to end, but it was my experience with everything last year, really, is don't look too far ahead, stay in the moment. And I know that makes for a boring press conference at times, but it truly is be in the moment, be where you are. And that, to me, that's what good teams do. That's what good players do, and I think that's what good coaches do. And so that's what I guess what taught me the most, is just continue to be where you are. And that's what last year more so than that game particularly, but last year was what I was taught.
Does Avonte Maddox have a chance this week at all, or is he still a little ways away?
Yeah, we'll see. He's still pushing through. He's getting better, but we'll see on him. You guys will get the practice report of everybody at practice.
Jalen, do you have to kind of manage him a little bit today, or is he going to be a full go?
Yeah, he'll be ready to roll today, full go.
And I know Lane has kind of declared himself ready. You have to keep an eye on him, do you think?
Yeah, you always are going to watch the guys that you want to make sure they're progressing the way they're supposed to, so they're ready to go on Saturday.
Nick, that decision, what the Giants looked like on Sunday versus the first time that you played them on December 11th. Do you see any differences the way they're playing?
Yeah, there's some different things that they're doing. Obviously, they're good coaches and they got good players, and when you have good coaches, they're going to adapt to what they're doing well. And they had a bye week over the time that we played them, and they've had some time off. They've had time to self-diagnose, and so sure, because those Wink and Dable and Kafka and and Bobby Johnson and Mike Groh, because all those guys I respect a lot, and they're good coaches. They're going to figure out what they're doing well, and they're going to try to repeat that. And so sure, you see some differences in that aspect.
Nick,
You got to go. Get it out, or you're going to get passed up again. Go.
What was the decision for Jalen not to throw on Thursday?
That was just our decision to make sure that he's continuing to progress the way we want to.
That decision you made to give up the play calling duties, and there are a lot of, I think 3 of the 4 coaches in the Final Four have done the same thing, or that's the way they operate. How freeing has that been for you? And the record's pretty good.
Yeah, it helps me manage the game better, in my opinion, and it helps me be involved with the defense. I don't want to look down at my call sheet, and I'm going through and I'm doing that at times, but I want to make sure I'm there with the defense and saying whatever I need to Jonathan or the players, and same thing with special teams. If I need to talk to a ref, if I need to, managing the game's the biggest thing, though. That's my job as the head coach, is to manage the game. And again, everybody does it a little bit differently. I get it, and what works best for us is that I do it this way. And So that's where we are. I think we like our processes of how we're going. Again, we're always trying to tweak it and make it better, but I got great coaches that I'm able to lean on there, and Shane's doing a great job of calling it. We like the process and the way it's going, and so it's worked out well for us.
Two more, please.
How would you qualify Daniel Jones as a scrambler?
You're new. You're new. Where'd you come from?
I just snuck in the back.
Okay.
How would you qualify?
I'm just kidding.
How would you qualify Daniel Jones as a scrambler? And how do you prepare? What's the process of preparing your team for someone like that versus someone like Hurts?
Yeah. Well, shoot. The good thing is they got a lot of reps versus a guy like Hurts. So Daniel Jones is dangerous in the pocket, and when he gets out of the pocket, he's really playing really good football. He's continuing to get better. Hats off to him and that coaching staff for allowing that to happen. That's one thing you always are appreciative of, is that these guys, the 2 practices that we had last week, because Jalen he may not have thrown, but he still practiced last week. And then, all the training camp practices, all the good versus good periods, they've had to defend a quarterback with that ability to scramble. And so we feel like we got a lot of good reps at it, but, we know also that he obviously how dangerous he is and how good we're going to have to be to do the things we need to do to be successful in this game against Daniel.
Going back to you guys watching the Giants-Vikings game, can you just provide a little color, like what room it's in, what coaches you're with, and what it's like when a play happens as you guys are kind of in the midst of prep?
Scott Kanicki got us. I was like kind of craving a Pizza Hut stuffed crust pizza, which is I haven't had that in a while. That's not something I get to get at home. So we had that. It was in the offensive staff room. I won't get into that, Howard.
Competitive advantage.
Yeah, the competitive advantage. The only thing that's negative about doing it in there, maybe I'll have to talk to Pat Dolan, is you can't rewind a play in there. But you should be able to, because you could at home, right? Because you got it on the. But apparently, in our meeting upstairs, you couldn't hey, what was that play? Rewind that. What did they do to Jefferson there, or what did they do to, on that particular play? You can't rewind it, and I got to wait for the replay. So. But that's kind of, sat in there. It was because you're in, obviously I'm in with the offense, getting the offensive game plan done. Gannon's with the defense, and Coach Clay's with the special team. So it was all the offensive coaches that were in there watching it as we planned. Kevin Petula always turns the volume down, like my mom would, back in the day, hey, well, no, we're working. I'm going to turn this down. I said, turn it back up. So that's something that happened in there. And, that's some good insight. There you go for it. Yeah.
Big play that caught your eye?
Yeah, but that might be in the game plan this week, so I don't want to talk about it.
All right.